Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
It is picked off by the line. Darius Slay's got it. Coming back right side 25. Picks up a block at the 30. Darius at the 40.
Drink it in, drink it in. Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
Rolls to the right. Stafford throws deep. Got a man out there. End zone. Caught. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Stafford!
Drink it in, drink it in.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions! Cornbread!
Stafford! Drink it in, drink it in, drink it in, man.
Detroit Koolaid, what is going on, everybody? Wednesday, and this is your boy Okri. I am solo today, no Grifka, but I thought it was timely. I'm going to be jumping on a plane here and be on some business this week, so doing a solo show here, but I thought it'd be timely to talk some Senior Bowl. So I know last year one of the shows you guys really enjoyed was kind of my Senior Bowl wrap-up, where after the Senior Bowl I broke down little blurbs, little info about each guy, things I saw, things I liked. Well, this year, we got everything set. I figured I might as well do one kind of before, and then we'll definitely get to our opinions and things I caught up on afterwards as well. But the Senior Bowl, real quick before I jump into it, is an event that, gosh, probably 5-6 years ago, it wasn't an event really on my calendar. It was just that postseason college game I didn't pay a ton of attention to. As I've grown to absolutely love the draft and get much more into kind of player personnel and all the different things, I've really grown to enjoy the Senior Bowl a lot. There's a lot you can glean from it, I think, if you really look at what the Detroit Lions have done the past few years. They have really picked from the Senior Bowl. They've always been down there with their crew, but if you look at some of their draft picks, a lot of guys that were either at the Senior Bowl or people they interacted with there usually end up showing up on draft day. So really important from that perspective. I mean, gosh, we got Matt Pat down there coaching with some of these new coaches. I know I've been on the record saying that's really important thing, really good thing to see that they were able to get that opportunity. And I do feel that way. I think there's just something to be said with actually boots on the ground, being there, talking to these guys, seeing them in the meeting rooms, seeing their work habits. But the only thing I don't want the Lions to do is totally fall in love with a player, just his personality, or maybe you had a really good interaction with at Senior Bowl and just sort of move him way up the draft board or kind of peg him as like, hey, we're going to draft that guy, and then just kind of decide when you're going to take him if he's still on the board. You still got to play the board. You still got to be smart about it. So it's kind of that catch-22. Like, you can learn a lot, but you don't want to go down there and just be blown away with a guy and then, not watch the board or not look for a value pick, when the draft actually begins. But like I say, they're down there. I'm hoping that Matt Pat and his coaching staff gets a good review. I hope the players say they enjoy getting to work with him. I hope he's, in good spirits, sort of having fun down there as a head coach. So I'm recording here a little bit early, and they're going to have, they kind of have, everybody gets there on Monday, Tuesday is, things start rolling. I can't remember. I think they do have sort of begin practice on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then by the end of the week is when we'll really have some takeaways as far as what we saw. I'll be able to put all this together. So hang with me. So what I want to do on this show is I've got some players highlighted. I've got some guys that caught my eye, either their names or I did a little bit of research. I still got so much to do. There's just not enough time in the day to read up on all this draft content and sort of get where I'd like to be with the day-to-day job and all the other things I got going right now. But I'm definitely trying to do my homework this year. And one thing, if you guys are really interested in the draft or really want to be on top of things, like, to me, it really does take some work. You really have to carve out time to do it. I know a lot of fans and people out there, we kind of get latched on to a couple of these names, or guys at big colleges that we've heard of or watched before. But what's really interesting is if you can read up on these guys, not only go to YouTube, maybe watch a couple things so you can actually physically see the player. I know there's been times in my past when I first got going where you just heard of the guy, but you've never really seen him. You may have read some things on him, but there's something to be said with really physically seeing them. YouTube highlights, maybe watch a game or two where they show a couple of their highlights, a couple of their plays, is really important. But what I've really started to enjoy the last couple of years is reading up. So if you can find a good draft guide, or if you can find something that will actually talk about these players, give their bios, yeah, give some stats, but it's kind of important to find out, are they a multi-sport athlete? Were they a captain or a stud in high school? You know, what did they bring to their college team? Are they a 3-year starter? There's lots of those little things, they even glean maybe some character, either issues or great character guys that you can just put a bullet next to and say, wow, that's it. That's a great guy off the field. That's obviously something you're always looking for in a draft pick as well, when and where you can get it. And there's those guys that are a little questionable that you can say, hey, I know he had a few things in his past, but I think the athleticism, the ability, as well as where he's headed, it's worth taking the risk. So I just encourage everybody to go out there, find something that you can actually grab onto, read. I'm Mr. Digital, like everything's, tech online, just, want everything in a digital form. But I've actually found with the draft, you wonder why draft guys still do the draft boards the way they do and do some, because there's something to be said about kind of printing these names off, putting them on the magnets, putting them on cards, getting used to the names, the heights, the weights, where they're from, what year they are. Are they a junior? Means they're younger. Are they a redshirt senior? Means they got a little bit more age to them when they're coming out for the most part. And then, like I say, if you can get a print off of a draft guide or some draft content, get a red pen out and start making some notes, highlighting things, circling it, making little notes to yourself, because that's sort of where you can get that recall. That really helps you come draft day. You really got to know your players kind of, pretty innately when you get to that point, if you're going to actually make picks on the clock or be kind of on top of your game. So anyway, that's just a little draft stuff. But again, today we're just going to focus on the Senior Bowl. Again, with me being out of town on business and stuff, I'm actually going to have a lot of it on record and have to get back to it. This is more of your preview show where we're going to talk about the North and the South squads. The rosters got released, so we're going to work our way through those. So let's not waste any more time. Really looking forward to this show. Again, the Senior Bowl is a big event. I really enjoy it. Let's take a quick break. I'll be right back, and we're going to dive into the North squad first, coached by Matt Patricia and the Detroit Lions, and work our way over to the South and try to give you guys not only some information, but just some names, some little things to watch, because I know all you football crazy fans out there are going to be watching this, and this will at least give you some things to work off and maybe some guys to keep an eye on. So take a quick break for our sponsors. I'll be right back.
Spring is here, and you can now get almost anything you need for your sunny days delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a well-groomed lawn delivered, but you can get a chicken parmesan delivered. A cabana? That's a no. But a banana? That's a yes. A nice tan? Sorry, nope. But a box fan? Happily, yes. A day of sunshine? No. A box of fine wines? Yes. Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
All right, everybody, we're back. Like I say, with no Grifka today, we're really just sitting here talking football, which is always fun. I know me and Grifka have a ton of fun on the show and joke back and forth and get into arguments and play sound bits and do all that fun stuff. But it is fun just to talk football, Detroit Lions, and this is an important thing. The Senior Bowl, heading to free agency, heading to the draft. So let's start with the North squad. To me, there's a couple positions that I'm really trying to key on. I know everybody and their brother wants to say, defense. We need defense. We got to fix this defense. Yes, we need some defensive playmakers, and there are some interesting prospects on the North side. But you do not want to neglect the offensive side of the ball. We've got some receivers on the squad we have to look at. There's a couple running backs that intrigue me. So don't get so caught up in that you're only going to spend time on defense. You're just looking at defensive ends, corners, linebackers, because you're going to miss out on some other good players. They're on both sides of the football. And you don't even want to bypass a position that you think we're good at, like some people might think, oh, we're good at receiver. You still want to know the names. You still want to be on top of things. You still want to make sure if a guy falls or if there's a really good talent that you know about him and that you know that he can help the team, if he's worth the draft pick come draft day. So North squad, let's go down the list again. Some of these guys, you know, I may have missed or I'm not going to talk about today, but these are just some names again I highlighted. We'll see if we can work our way through these in timely fashion. So the first name that I had highlighted was cornerback out of California. And this guy, I don't know, he intrigues me when I start reading about him. So Ashton Davis out of California, defensive back, defensive secondary type of player. This guy's actually more of a single high safety. You know, he has kind of, when I was reading on him, he kind of had a comparison of Darnell Savage. Now, he is a first, second round type projection, so not sure the Lions will be looking for a guy in that range. But, you know, when you read up on him, he had some offensive player in high school. He just had some really intriguing things. You know, his tackling seemed to be an issue as I was reading up on him, but kind of an explosive athlete and a guy that wasn't really on my radar until I looked at him. So Ashton Davis, you know, was a guy in the secondary. Even though I do like our current safeties, you know, if the right one pops up, and if they have a scheme for him, I think you can go that route. The next guy I have is the D tackle out of Oklahoma, Gallimore. This is an athletic defensive tackle. I'd put him more maybe a nose tackle type guy, but he is a penetrator. The note I have on him is that he was the highest rated PFF pass rush grade for the past 2 years, and actually it seemed to have 3 years of really high type PFF grades when it comes to pass rush. So I like seeing that. Kid's got about a third round type grade on him. So if you're missing out on the Derek Browns, the kid out of South Carolina, then Gallimore is an option there as you work your way down the board. The next guy, another defensive tackle. Now, this guy, I watched some film on him recently. I actually took him in one of my mock drafts that you see come out from time to time on Twitter. And there's things I like about this guy, and then when I watch him, there's things that like really worry me. So I don't even know if I got the name, if I can pronounce it right, but it looks like Leaky Fotu or Fotu. Again, I haven't heard his name pronounced, but Fotu. And this guy's a monster. This guy's like 330 pounds, 6'6", I want to say, in that range, if not taller. They have him somewhat compared to Ashawn, but I don't know. This guy is one of those big, what I love in defensive tackles is that big kind of Samoan in the middle of your defense that's just like big, athletic, you know, can move bodies, got some nasty to him. When I watched Fotu, like to me he has these plays where he just blows by people or just bullies his defender and looks incredible. And there was a lot of plays where he really looks mechanical and stiff. You know, like he's this big guy and he can't bend. He can't really, you know, look athletic. So I just don't know. I got to do not only some more homework, but look at him. But he's really intriguing because, like, if you go back even to his high school days, he's just, like, so much bigger than everyone. He's just beasting everybody. You know, if he could learn to kind of play in the middle of the defense, could be a really intriguing prospect. You know, it seems like the draft network and people are pretty cool with him. Like, he's kind of in that third, fourth round type range. And I don't know. I don't know if he really fits the Lions defense or where I'm at with him, but like wait till you see him at the Senior Bowl. He looks different than almost everybody else, not only from I think he's got the crazy hair going, but he's just big and I'm sure he'll push some people around because that's what I saw on tape. Joshua Uche from Michigan I had here as an edge type defender, you know, kind of have him in the third round type range. I think he's an intriguing prospect, only seemed to get better when he was at Michigan, which is always good as you continually get better. Alton Robinson, edge out of Syracuse. This was a guy that, I don't know, I like what I saw. I know our guy Frank Ribble had a question. I kind of put Alton Robinson in the mix as a later edge type player. I mean, he's probably got a third, fourth type round grade on him. And I saw some comparisons to Jalen Ferguson. If you guys know him, he was the all-time leader in sacks, from the college perspective, went to Baltimore, started slow, and then towards the end of the year, he really started kind of coming on, making some plays. So, I mean, that's intriguing, and Alton Robinson has the size as well that the Lions would look for at that type of position. Bradley and Nye, Nye from Utah. Um, Gosh, this guy, again, mixed reviews. I mean, kind of in that second to third type range, I would say. I just don't know what to think about him. I've seen some great reviews where it's like, man, this guy's got lots of skills, good size, going to be good. And then there's guys that like don't like, his bend, his get off, his work ethic, any of this stuff. So again, he's intriguing. He's that type of guy where you may pass on a rusher early and can get this guy if you love him, but I feel like the Lions are probably not going to be on a player like this, but I could be wrong. He's definitely one to keep an eye on at the Senior Bowl, so we'll see what he can bring to the table. The other great thing about the Senior Bowl, everybody knows this, is when they do those one-on-one drills, when they do, just offense versus defense, kind of either pass rush or even the pass protection for the running backs. That's really when it is kind of very, how do I say this? Like, that's where you get a really good evaluation because it's kind of the best of the best for the most part when it comes to seniors. A lot of the real studs coming out in college are juniors or even redshirt sophomores. They're not going to be at this game, but still, man, savvy senior vets, when you're going head up against them, you can really tell some things. So it'll be really interesting to see who wins these battles. And like I say, you take them for what they're worth. Like, you can move a guy around the draft board based on how he performs at the Senior Bowl, but you just don't want to get crazy about it because, if he guy was a bum most of his career in college or below average, and he comes and blows up the Senior Bowl and wins every drill, I mean, it doesn't mean he's going to be a top NFL prospect. So anyway, let's get back to these players. So Michigan State product, Kenny Willekes. This guy's an edge guy, probably in that 4th, 5th, probably even 6th round type range. I saw, here's the thing. This is something for you Lions fans to chew on. A comparison I saw was Rob Ninkovich. Like, if Rob Ninkovich is your comparison, you got to decide in yourself if that's really good, because that guy was a really good player for the New England Patriots when it comes to grit, leadership, kind of what he could do on the field. Always seemed to be around the football, always seemed to be making plays. But would Rob Ninkovich be able to do any of that kind of stuff in 2020 NFL? Where everything's faster, you can't touch anybody, less physical, all that type of stuff. And that's what I'm trying to figure out with the Lions is they're going with this tried true method that they think they have this scheme that just works, no matter what. I know Matt Patricia can be a bit versatile, but if this guy compares to Rob Ninkovich, like, those guys seem to be kind of getting weaned out of the NFL for the more athletic, more bendy, more explosive type players. So anyway, chew on that, kind of see what Willekes brings at the Senior Bowl. Next guy, Ohio State linebacker Malik Harrison. Now, this was a name I heard a lot about. I heard some good things. He's kind of on my radar. Like, hey, this guy might be a good, middle of the draft, end of the draft type linebacker. Seemed to have some college production. Seemed to be good. He's listed sort of as an inside linebacker. I mean, I put him probably in that 5th, 6th round range. I'd seen him higher, to start the process, either probably in that 3-4 range. Now it seems like he's going a little bit lower. But the more I read up on him, man, he seemed to be kind of like a poor tackler, good run defense, decent coverage grades, but I just wasn't wowed by what I saw. I felt like before I felt he was a better football player than when I sort of looked into him a little bit more. So we'll see. Maybe he comes out and plays well, because like I say, that's a big time school and he has played some good football. But Malik Harrison, I kind of cooled on a little bit based on what I had saw here on the initial stages. Ohio State product, Jonah Jackson. He's an offensive guard. And most of the time when I was going through the offensive guards, I was trying to figure out who can play right guard, because I feel like if they move on from Glasgow, I want a guy that has tons of snaps, tons of games at right guard. I'm not a proponent of just saying, oh, he played left, he could just flip over the other side. I know it's done. I know it's done at a pretty high level in the NFL. But to me, the footwork, just the muscle memory, the ability to do it the same way as you had done it at college, to me is a definite plus and something I look for. Now, Jackson, he had a comparison to Josh Sitton, which, I couldn't stand Josh Sitton when he was with the Packers, but he always was making Pro Bowls or kind of really grimy there in the middle. So I thought that was a good thing, and he seemed to have good run and pass ratings, which is something I look for too. I mean, I think the Lions like those, you know, balance type offensive linemen. They want some versatility, but they also want you to be decent at run and pass. Now, I've grilled them on the podcast of being way better at pass than at run. We're not pushing any bodies the way I'd like to see it, but Jonah Jackson's a name to keep watch for when you're watching the Senior Bowl. Right after that, a little Michigan product, so Ohio State, Michigan back to back. Ben Bredesen. Now, to me, Bredesen, I don't know, Austin Corbett type comp. They had him in the 4th round. I don't know what to think about the guy. I think he kind of played some different positions on the offensive line, so that's a good thing. But I don't know if you can just slot him in there right at right guard and feel good about it. We'll go ahead and see what he does. Let's get to the outside. This is the outside linebacker from Wisconsin. Again, I'm definitely highlighting those bigger schools because I definitely skew towards that too when I'm drafting players. I feel like they played with better competition, bigger games, bigger stadiums, but you definitely don't want to overlook the little schools. But if I got my choice, I'm usually going the bigger school. This one really befuddles me right here. So we got Zach Baun out of Wisconsin, listed at outside linebacker. I watched this guy a little bit for PFF and doing some other projects, and this guy he looks like, when you see him physically, he looks kind of like Anthony Barr type body build, just the way he looks physically. He always seemed to be standing up, coming off the edge when I watched him. Yet this publication that I looked at recently, I mean, they had this guy as a 2nd round pick and comparison of Joe Schobert. Now, I got issues with both of those. I didn't see anything when I was watching him that had him in the 2nd type round. I mean, I've heard some good things, and I saw him at times make plays, but I didn't feel like he was this, all over the football field type of guy. 2nd round outside backer, edge rusher type, but Joe Schobert's like more of a middle or outside linebacker that runs and just tackles. He's not coming off the edge or playing big edge, in a 3-4 type of thing where he's way out wide coming after the quarterback. So I thought that was an odd comp, but what I said is, like, when I saw this guy, or when I saw kind of how he played the game, he kind of reminded me of what I liked when Kyle Van Noy came out of college. He was always that athletic edge that was way out wide, come after the quarterback, could set the edge, could make plays on the football and get the football out. That's kind of what I saw from Zach Baun when I watched him, just, in general terms. Let's go down here. We've got, this was, again, another thing I looked for was right tackles. I feel like if they're going to move on from a tackle, the Lions themselves, from what I hear, really seem to like Taylor Decker. I like Taylor Decker for the most part. A lot of people don't like Taylor Decker, Grifka, and others. But I think if you're going to make a decision, you're going to move on from Rick Wagner because of his price tag. And because, I mean, let's be honest, he's been not that great. I mean, to quote a famous scholar. But, I mean, he's been okay. I just feel like I don't worry about him too much on Sundays when he's out there. But we could definitely get better. So I feel like if you're going to get better at right tackle. This kid's out of Connecticut. Matt Parrott, I believe is how you pronounce it, offensive tackle. And, like, I liked what I read about this guy. He's like a 3rd round type grade. He right tackles, or all of his snaps were, and he seemed to be well above average on all the PFF stats they looked at. I mean, they had, like, pass protection, run blocking, the different schemes he was in, some of the other things from offensive line. He seemed to be way above in all of those. So I can't say I put my eyes on it much Connecticut football, but that was a name where it was like that unheard of guy. I was like, watch some Matt Parrott, or gosh, I wish I could pronounce some of these guys' names better, but some of them I'm still learning. So we'll see after the draft or after the Senior Bowl. Let's keep it moving here. Josh Jones. This is a big man, big physical beast out of Houston. This is a left tackle prospect, but I still highlighted him because he's a first round type talent, maybe early second. I don't know. This guy seems to just have that body build of like that elite left tackle where they just have crazy feet. They can just bully you. But I can't say he had the greatest grades. I mean, he just looks like a really physically gifted guy and a guy that with Houston, they usually throw in the football a lot. So he probably has lots of snaps when it comes to pass protection. I'll be curious to see what he has because this was a guy I've kind of been down on throughout the process. But he has some intriguing things when you look at him, no doubt about it. Highlighted Trey Adams, offensive tackle out of Washington. I think this guy has one of the greatest mullets in the game, if this is the guy that I remember. But like I say, offensive tackle, Washington, throw the football, kind of that crazy Pac-12 type thing. This is a mid-round type guy, probably in that 4th, 5th round. More of a left tackle. That's where all his snaps were. So if you think you're just going to draft him, put him on the right side. I'm not a proponent of that necessarily. Let's get a few more guys here on the north before we move on to the other side. Utah State, Jordan Love. Now, the reason I highlighted this guy is because I like this player a lot. Like, I think I watched him a few times. I really felt like, wow, Jordan Love's got some game, man. But he's got some issues, when it comes to whether it be, gosh, I don't know. Like, you could say he's accurate, and there's times you can say he's inaccurate. But I thought his athleticism as well as just what he brought from the quarterback position really showed me some things. So I wouldn't be surprised because quarterbacks get pushed up. If you see this guy in the middle of the first round, maybe early second round, but I think he's an intriguing quarterback prospect. Not saying the Lions should go get him, but saying watch him in the Senior Bowl and see what you think because I think Jordan Love's got some game. TCU, this one surprised me as well. TCU, Darius Anderson, running back. Now, I knew about him, again, just off the cuff. Maybe I was thinking of another type player. I was thinking more of a receiving type back, a little scat back. But when you look up Darius Anderson, when you really dig into him, I mean, I saw some comps of Kerryon Johnson type. And when you read up on him, he's elusive. He's got yards after contact. He's a good zone runner, is what I was able to glean from him. It's a guy you could pick up maybe in the 5th, 6th round that – I don't know. He could, especially if he's like Kerryon and you think you can get a guy like this late. Maybe it's good to wait on running backs, pick up a guy like this, and just say, hey, this guy's a lot of touches. He's done some decent things at the college level, and see if you can kind of have that Kerryon Johnson light or that Kerryon Johnson number 2 to go along with Bo and a couple other guys. Next name on my list, Sean McCune out of Michigan, tight end. Gosh, I'm torn on Sean McCune. Like, at times I would see him catch the football and run up the field, and I was like, man, this guy's pretty smooth. Or he'd block in lines, a pretty, willing blocker type of guy. I think this is the guy where you'd hear every game he'd play. He's a former quarterback, in high school, all this stuff, so he kind of knows what the quarterback's looking for, knows how to make himself presentable. Nothing special here, this is a late round type tight end that you would get that's a depth player that can probably, either make your roster or be at the bottom of the roster, but also a pretty dependable guy. I don't know. I just highlighted him. I didn't really want the Lions to focus in on tight end, so I left some of the bigger names off. But I just thought, hey, if Sean McCune's there in the 6th, 7th round, you think he's better than Nada or some of these other guys you got, maybe he's worth a long-time flyer, but I wouldn't encourage it. This is the name everybody's kind of talking about right here, Michael Pittman, USC, a big wide receiver, kind of a 2nd round, 3rd round type grade. I saw some comparisons to Alshon Jeffrey. I don't know. I like Michael Pittman because he's obviously got that pedigree where, people know his dad was in the NFL, all that type of stuff, so you can give that as a plus. But I had him in like a college fantasy league and kind of seen him. I wasn't blown away by this guy. I felt like he was just sort of a mid type college receiver, but if he's like Alshon, if he's physical, if he can go get it and can prove himself at the Senior Bowl, that would do some good things for him. I'm much more of a proponent of just kind of like, yeah, he's an okay player, but I wouldn't go out and make him a priority, even though I've read some articles saying like he's the big, receiver to watch on the Lions side of the football. Another receiver out of Baylor, Denzel Mims. This guy, third, fourth round, kind of big, athletic. Got some speed to him out of that crazy offense they kind of run over there in Baylor. I mean, I think he's got some things. I mean, he kind of like that receiver type that Bob Quinn has traditionally drafted. But my thing is, okay, you already got those guys. You got Kenny, depending on what you want to do with Marvin Jones. But we're looking for a small scat receiver that can catch the football and got some speed and some juice. Is what I'm looking for. So, the next guy too, a big old receiver. This is out of Notre Dame, Chase Claypool. This guy's like a little bit later rounds. You can maybe get him in the 5th or so. He was compared to Devin Funchess. I loved Funchess at Michigan. I thought when they had him at tight end, he was just always catching footballs. And then he went to the league and they made him a big receiver. He caught a lot of touchdowns, made some plays early in his career where nobody thought he would. And Claypool's got some of those same abilities. I have here as kind of a wide receiver / flex tight end. I think I read some too. He's even compared to like some of the similar skills that Darren Waller had, a receiver turned tight end that now is tearing up the league now that Darren Waller got his off the field together. So, again, intriguing prospect, but do we need a flex tight end? No, we have TJ Hawkinson. Do we need another receiver that's big and can go get it in the red zone? No, we already have those. But this next guy is a guy that I know. I think Jared on Twitter, you always see him kind of putting up great things about the draft and doing mock drafts. I think this is one of his guys, and I'm intrigued by him as well. But I also have a negative on him. So Texas A&M's Courtney Davis. This guy, I don't know. I saw Jared taking him kind of in that 4th, 5th type round. I mean, he's got more of a 6th round grade, but when you look at him, like I had read, short area quickness, doesn't drop the football, able to really do some things, and I started reading up on him, and like he had really poor scores when it comes to PFF grades. Nothing really jumped off the table to me as, very special, but that's why I want to watch him. That's why I want to see him at Senior Bowl, probably pull up some more of his stuff, sort of see what type of player he is. But, he wasn't that 4th, 5th round type, gotta have him receiver. It was much more of a, if he's there, maybe we can get him and maybe he can learn under a Danny Amendola and see what he has, moving forward type of thing. So that's the North Squad. Those are the kind of the names. I'm sure you guys are out there screaming at your cell phones or you're in your cars driving saying, you didn't bring up this guy, Okri. Like, this is my guy. Yeah, this is the beginning of the process, giving you the preview. I'll have more takes, more opinions on these guys once I actually watch the Senior Bowl practices, see what the experts are saying, as well as get my own take when I see them with my eyes again against other good football players and say, wow, this guy really had some juice, or wow, this guy always won the one-on-ones, either pass rush, offense, wide receiver, whatever it may be. So let's take a quick pause. I'll come back and then we'll talk some South Squad. I'll be right back.
The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is,
"Thank you for calling. Please listen to your list of 46 possible service options."
Which is why when you choose USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable. 24/7 online service for claims, access to roadside assistance, and more. All at the touch of a button. Start getting the service you deserve. Get a quote today. Ability to receive a quote depends on membership eligibility. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliate, San Antonio, Texas.
All right, everybody, let's talk about the South Squad. Let's get right into it. We're not going to mess around. The South Squad by the Bengals. Bengals will be coached in the South. And I highlighted some names. We'll work our way through these. So the first name I had, Christian Fulton, cornerback out of LSU. This guy really high on my radar. He's kind of fallen a bit just because of all the other premier prospects at LSU, but this is a good cornerback, man. He's a first, second round type talent. I saw him compared to A.J. Boye. You got to like that. I think he brings some really good things to the table, so that's a name to keep an eye on if the Lions pass on cornerbacks early. Maybe Christian Fulton is that guy in the second, or even I don't think he makes it to the 3rd round. I would say it definitely is going to go in the 2nd, but I've seen corners slip before. we all have. So we'll see what he does. Next guy I had on my list again was another DB. This guy's intriguing. Probably people out there that hate this guy, and there's guys that just say, "Oh, you got to get this guy. He's got crazy skills. He's going to be a great pro." Darnay Holmes out of UCLA. You read up on Darnay. I mean, they got him compared to Janoris Jenkins. Remember when every Lions fan wanted Janoris Jenkins? He had all the off-field issues. Well, Darnay, I didn't read about a ton of off-field issues. He was a stud in high school, offensive player, big-time playmaker. UCLA, he's got the speed and ability to keep up with some of the fastest receivers in college. He did it with Hollywood Brown. He had some good games against N'Keal Harry. But Darnay has a bunch of issues, too. He gets roasted at times. He gets handsy. He's got poor PFF stats from what I saw. I just put here on my notes, big-time boom-bust guy. So there's people that are just going to say, no, the tape doesn't match. He's not going to be anything. He's just an athletic type player with some speed. And there's people that say, wow, if you get this guy in the third, fourth, even if he slips even later than that, you've got to take a chance on him because he's got some speed. He's got some ball skills. He's an electric type player at times. Like his ceiling is incredible and his floor is like horrible. That's kind of like where this guy falls. But Darnay Holmes, a name to at least keep an eye on and see what you think. Maybe we'll know more after Senior Bowl. Like, yeah, this guy just can't D up, or wow, all that athleticism showed up. Next name, Clemson. Kayvon Wallace. This is a defensive back type player, third round type player. Seemed to have missed tackles and poor run defense when I read about him. I mean, obviously he's coming from Clemson, so people are going to tick him up for that. I mean, decent player, but nothing really wowed me, but still a guy to watch down there at Senior Bowl. South Carolina, Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle. Everybody knows this is kind of like the next guy on the list after Derek Brown. I'll be curious to see if he gets in that first round towards the back half. Everybody's sort of been placing him there, but I could always see a guy like this falling, kind of that defensive tackle 3 technique penetrator. He's intriguing to me, but I watched a little bit of him. I mean, he would have some bat downs. He'd have some get after the quarterbacks, but it didn't jump off the page to me, obviously, like it did with Derek Brown, where this guy is just a dancing bear that has long levered arms and could just crush you, right off the snap. That's what I thought with Derek Brown. Not so much with Kinlaw, but Kinlaw is a guy, too, that could, test well and has all the things you look for and could move up to that middle, first round, second defensive tackle off the board. We'll see what happens. Next guy I have here is Alabama, Roquan Davis. Another name people know because Alabama, seems to be falling in like that third round range when I do mocks. I mean, a lot of boards have him more in the fourth or fourth round. It'd probably be where his drop would stop if he got to that point. Good run defender. It doesn't bring you much like on third down when it comes to really getting after people. I mean, yeah, you're going to see his highlights where he's getting after the quarterback and whatnot, but seem to be more of that guy that we already have. We already have Alabama guys that can kind of good against the run, know their gaps, know how to play the defense. But I mean, you don't need 4 or 5 of those guys up front. You need Deshaun Hand to ball out the way he should. You need Flowers to do his thing, and then you need a couple rushers. So, speaking of rushers, Darrell Taylor Jr. out of Tennessee. I did some more reading up on this guy. He's got me intrigued, man. Third round, fourth round type prospect. Saw him compared to Brian Arakpo. Pass rush, third down positives, and run stopping negatives. So, again, you may hear that and say, well, the Lions aren't going to want a guy that's bad against the run. Well, they need some more people that can get after the quarterback. So you might want to take a look at Darrell Taylor there. To me, Tennessee hasn't been good. I mean, this kid seemed to have the measurables you look for from that perspective. But, again, if he can get after the quarterback and has a comparison to an Arakpo type, that intrigues me. Let's keep it moving here. Alabama, again, Anthony Jennings, another name most people know. Now, it's curious here on the Senior Bowl roster that I was looking at. They had him as an inside linebacker. I mean, the more reading up and homework I did on Anthony Jennings, he definitely seems more of a outside linebacker, edge type guy where most of his snaps are coming from the edge. or on the ball. He's not playing off the ball very much, so I don't know if they're going to try him at inside linebacker or inside linebacker in a 3-4, whatever it may be. But Anthony Jennings to me is a guy I see in the third or fourth round of my mocks. Got him kind of as that floor of maybe the fourth round type range. Seem to be well above average on most of the PFF grades I was looking at when it comes to run stopping, coverage. He can cover, but it seems much more of a get after the quarterback type player. Again, you got to put these guys on your radar. Alabama's Terrell Lewis. This was a guy just as of a few days ago when I did a mock. I took him in the second round. Terrell Lewis, linebacker. He's got a third round type grade, for the most part, but I think he's got some pass rush ability. Again, not a run stuffer, but good pass rusher, and that's what I'm looking for. If I can't get a guy like Chase Young, or if I pass on Derek Brown, take another position, I'm looking for rushers in the second, third, fourth, whatever it may be. So Terrell Lewis is a guy I think keep an eye on. He's had some injury issues. We'll see if he's balling out at the Senior Bowl, or if he, is still one of those guys that's always hurt and not able to reach his potential. Next name on my list is LSU's Damian Lewis. He's an interior offensive lineman. Gosh, this is another guy that really intrigued me. This was, I know he's from LSU, but he wasn't really on my radar. Damian Lewis is played in the SEC. He kind of has that third round grade at third, fourth, even fifth is where I'm sort of looking for. Maybe I'll take an offensive guard, but I'm not really looking in that range unless he really, just makes sense at that point. But Damian Lewis is a right guard basically only. That's where all of his snaps came. He's great as a run blocker in his own scheme. Seemed to be poor on his pass sets, which worried me because the Lions are still going to throw the football quite a bit. But hey, if we can get a guy that can road grade, a guy that's a good zone blocker, played the right guard position, for the most part came from LSU, had some good size to him. I thought it was worth it. Now, again, maybe you can wait later. Comparison of Nate Davis, that was a guy I liked in the draft process, seems to be doing, doing well down there in Tennessee. So, just keep an eye on that. I know all you guys out there want these offensive guards like they're gold, and they are important, but if Ragnow plays the way he should, Decker, plays above average, and Joe Dahl, which is they already signed him and he seems to be okay, you're going to need someone to play guard, but can it be a later draft pick, or do you really need to invest in that position and the right tackle to make our offensive line where it should be? We'll see. We'll see what they do. This next name too. You're talking about wanting to watch a guy when it comes down to practice. Appalachian State, Kaheem Davis Gaither. This was a guy I couldn't understand it. He's an outside linebacker, and they kind of had him not even rated on their big board of what I was looking at. But they also had a second round grade on him, and they compared him to Jalen Smith out of Dallas. That guy was a freak coming out of college, even with the injury, and he's proven to be so in the NFL. So when I did some more reading and watched this guy, seemed to be a good run defender and rusher, but poor in coverage. It was kind of like, you already have those. We have a few of those. But I was just surprised to see a second round grade for a guy out of Appy State and compared to Jalen Smith. It's is that a typo, or... so he's on my list to read up, watch some more of this guy and see what he has. Penn State has a linebacker as well, Cameron Brown, outside linebacker, fourth round type player, compared to Bobby, one of the greatest names in all of sports, Bobby Okereke. I think, what was it, Pat McAfee, I think, said that he got to announce that at the draft and did a tremendous job. That was funny. But this guy, again, kind of poor at tackling, but seemed to be even when it came to run and pass, which I hope the Lions are looking for. Yeah, you want a guy that can stuff the run, but he's got to be able to cover people. Cameron Brown seemed to have those athletic traits, played at Penn State, which to me was a plus as well. Gosh, I'm not even going to try to say this Auburn tackle's name, but his first name is Prince Tega. I think, is that all? Let me see. It might be even off my page here on my sheet. Yeah, it looks like his first name is Prince Tega, And then I don't even want to try the last name, but he's like a fifth round tackle. Again, a left tackle that you could take as kind of the swing player or a guy that's just, depth. He seemed to be average at run and pass, kind of, just an athlete that you want to keep your eye on is what I highlighted him for. Work our way down here. Vanderbilt's running back Keyshawn Vaughn. I've heard a lot of stuff about this guy. I kind of heard about him in the last year or so, and some people were like, man, this guy is the truth. He's electric. He put up a lot of big numbers when I would watch him. Like, you'd see the stat line, wow, Keyshawn Vaughn with 160 yards, Keyshawn Vaughn with 200 some total yards or whatever it may be for Vandy. But I mean, I just don't know what the Lions want to do at running back. But if you really want to wait till the 5th, 6th round and maybe take a guy like this, it'd be intriguing. The next guy, I got major issues with this guy. Arizona State's Eno Benjamin. This was a guy I heard about 2 years ago where everybody's like, oh, he's going to be the top running back in fantasy. I mean, he's done okay in his college career, and now people have him in the 4th, 5th round. So I don't know if he didn't live up to his potential, or there's some people that love this guy. They're like, oh man, this is the next David Montgomery type player where you can get him later, but he's gonna be really good and you can hand him the football. I don't know. This is why I have him highlighted, is because I mean, he could either be really good and be a sleeper, or I just watch him and be like, nope, not a guy the Lions will want. I'll have to check him out a little bit more. Ohio State's Austin Mack at wideout. The reason I highlighted this guy is because every Ohio State game that I watched, or against Michigan and whatnot, it seemed like this guy was that savvy, smart, lanky type receiver that could go make the plays, really consistent, as well as a guy that, I don't know, there's just something about him where I was like, man, that guy seems like he might be a good pro at the next level. Now, not an athletic specimen that will blow you out of the water, but a guy that just in and out of his cuts, catch the football. Every once in a while he's sneaking behind your defense. That's kind of what I saw from him, so I just highlighted him because I remember thinking that when I watched him. Next player, Texas Colin Johnson. Now, this guy's like 6'6", 215, 220 pounds. He's got those crazy measurables. Had some good pedigree. I remember hearing about him, like he's going to be this stud wideout coming out. He was just always at Texas. He'd make plays. There's other games he'd have drops. He wouldn't show up. Colin Johnson to me is a guy that if you want another big body receiver, you can go get him in the middle of the draft, maybe in the 4th, 5th round type if he slips, 3rd if somebody loves him. But he's not a guy I'm really looking at for the Lions because I don't need that body type anymore. I want Kenny to be my beast. I want another number 2 that can really do some things either with speed, route running, or both. And then I want a little guy that can work all those underneath routes that we haven't been able to do too much. I mean, Danny had a little bit of that, but I still think there's better, slot options as well as opposite Kenny options that we can get going. Speaking of the other kid out of Texas, Devin Duvernay. Gosh, this guy is another polarizing guy. I've seen him everywhere from the 3rd round to the 6th round. Duvernay in the one of the publications I was looking at was compared to Golden Tate, Grifka's favorite player, GT. I don't know. I don't see it. The stuff I've read, the stuff I've seen of him, he just seemed like a okay football player that I can get in the 5th, 6th round. I'm not taking him anywhere near the 3rd or giving him Golden Tate type status. But hey, when it came down to body build or some of the things they saw, they liked from this kid, but he's not one that I would overly invest in from what I've seen so far. Arizona State's Brandon Ayuk. This guy's intriguing as well from their wide receiver perspective. A 1st, 2nd, maybe 3rd round type receiver grade, probably go more in that 2nd round. I don't know. He's big. He's angular. He can run. He can do some things. I'm intrigued by him. I feel like these are the kind of prospects I'm much more apt to try to take a fly. I don't want to say that because I'm not going to go take Brandon Ayuk in the 2nd round for the Detroit Lions. But this type of player with his skill set and the things that he has that may be special are things that I'm looking for. In a receiver, just hopefully later, if I can get a guy in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round that has tons of upside or can maybe make plays. Like, who have I taken in my mocks? I'm trying to think. I took Jared's boy a couple times late where I was able to get Courtney Davis. I've taken Denzel Mims a couple times. I've got away from the KJ Hamlers in the 2nd round. I think waiting on receiver and running back is going to be the prudent thing to do. As much as I want to put running back to bed and just get a stud running back to go carry on and Bo, I think it's better to wait on wide receiver and running back. So, again, plenty other players I could have talked about. Those were just some ones that jumped out to me. Gave you a bunch of names, a bunch of little tidbits to think about. If you love the draft, if you love football, make sure you clue in to all the practices this week for the Senior Bowl, as well as all the coverage like NFL Network does. They have great recaps where you can get caught up within an hour or two. I'm definitely going to get all caught up when I get back from my business trip and make sure that I'm on top of this for you guys, as well as give you, I may come back and say, hey, remember I mentioned that? Yeah, scratch that guy. Hey, remember that guy? Yeah, I liked what I saw. He's going to be real good. Definite Lions target. So I'll definitely have more info after that, as well as looking forward to the Combine. And then, depending on what the Lions do in free agency, then things starts to crystallize. Once you've seen the Senior Bowl, their Combine numbers, and see what they do in free agency, then they're really talking draft that last month or so. So anyway, want to give you guys a Senior Bowl preview. Again, straight up football, no gimmicks, no gadgets. Didn't make you laugh a ton today, but hopefully gave you some football talk that you can chew on and enjoy here for these couple of days where I'll be out of the state on airplanes, traveling all over, and then I'll be back right here next week, right here on the Detroit Koolaid Cast with the one and only Grifka. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. I'm out.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. It is over. What a comeback by the Lions. Drink it in, man.